All right, I'm Chris Avina with American Outdoor News. I'm here with Martha Tansy. Martha, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Of course, super exciting.
Now, you have a really storied history. You were in the military for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do in the military?
I made my way up to an NCOV recovery team, which means we went out and did a lot of recoveries, whether people are struck or broke down. I was a mechanic, that's what I specialized in. So yeah, I had a lot of fun.
So that mechanic training really helped you later on in life.
Yeah, just like, I mean, everything I do, like, revolves around being in the woods. And so, like, being able to fix equipment out in the woods was really important to me. So even at, like, a childhood level, I was trying to figure out how to work on cars to be able to, you know, get us back home. That's kind of the goal. When you want to go home, you want to be able to get home and be able to, you know.
Well, now after the service, did you work on a pit crew and you raced off-road?
Yeah, so I actually got into that because I was breaking my trucks all the time, going off-road, and there was a shop local where I lived in Alaska, and they were able to help me, fix my trucks and taught me a lot about like field recovery, but then also just how to prevent issues in the first place. But then in exchange, they had me working on the race cars. And so that's how I kind of got into building race cars. There's a NASCAR sanctioned track there in Alaska, and they were doing really well with the cars that they were putting out of their shop. So yeah, I got to learn a lot about high performance, setting up cars, and then of course when track day came, they threw me in all sorts of really fun race cars.
That's right. So your military training, obviously, that helped you with your military training.
Exactly. I was trying to figure out like where I was going to go in life when I was in high school, and I was already working on cars, already building trucks, already racing, and it just seemed like a good fit to go and be a mechanic in the military because I do have a passion to be in the woods, and I love helping people. I love being a part of a team and accomplishing really big, hard missions. So I'm like, oh yeah, the military sounds like a great place for us. So
you became the best you could be.
I did. So I had a lot of fun going through training, and then just being in the military was actually a blessing. I feel like I love the service that I did to them. So.
Is that where you learned how to become a sharpshooter?
I did. I mean, growing up in Alaska, there's shooting everywhere. We got shooting ranges, in our yard. So shooting is very common. But I learned very specific ways to advance in shooting in the military. I love kind of sort of being the best I can be. Yeah. And so the military gave me training to do exactly that in regards to marksmanship.
So everything you've learned in life really brought you to where you are today. I mean, you grew up in Alaska, which I'm sure was not easy growing up in Alaska, but you still maintain that lifestyle.
Oh yeah, like my passion to be in the woods is so strong, and my daughter and I both share that, and we also love helping people. So we kind of just took both of those and applied them to our life. We love building big trucks and going out and doing really cool things, but at the end of the day, we're doing all that so that way we can spend time in the woods and help. Right now, the biggest thing that we're doing is, of course, hunting big game in Alaska and then bringing that meat back and then giving it away to people in need. It takes up pretty much all of our life. It's kind of centered around that ministry. But another thing that is a sidekick of that is helping people in the woods. I mean, we come across people all the time that are broke, that are stuck, that are lost, that have equipment that tried to get through a river and it got washed out. Now they have no equipment. They're stranded. We come across people like all the time, and we just have a big heart for them and want to share God's love through us to them in that way. So we love hunting. We love to get the meat and give that away. But at the end of the day, like, helping people is important. So we will stop our hunt anytime to go and help, brother or sister in need that we see.
Well, when you're going through the woods, does your halo ever get in the way? Because you're like a guardian angel to people.
That's funny you say that. Like, I love working as a team. So even if I'm meeting strangers, I still just love interacting with them and working together to help them with whatever resources and knowledge we have. And sometimes it goes the other way around, and I get myself in pickles too.
Yeah.
So I love like just being able to work with people and meet new people. It's so much fun. Like I meet the best people sometimes out in the middle of nowhere where there's a need, so we take care of the need, but in the process I have a lifelong friend that comes from it.
So what's the population where you live? It's obviously not very, populated.
No, where I live is kind of outside of a town. I live in the Hatcher's Pass area, but I can get to town fairly easy if I need something.
Hour's drive?
Huh?
An hour's drive?
Yeah, well, we have Anchorage. It's a little ways away. We can get things from there. But when we're out in the woods, which is where we spend most of our time, it could be days before we could get to a village or a town to get any type of resources.
So the hunting for a lifestyle is part of your sustainability, which you're doing for you and your family, but you're also doing for the town.
Yeah.
Now tell us a little bit about that, how that came about and how they chose you to be the provider of the village.
So, like when I first started hunting, it's a challenge to get one animal down. As you know, it's hard. So I got my first animal down, and traditionally what we do is we give that first animal away. And so I did that, and I felt really good about doing it, even though it was hard. It was hard work to get that first one. But I felt good, so I gave that away. And then I got my next animal, and I was like, well, I really enjoyed giving that one away, so I gave about 80% of that one away too. Make sure my daughter and I have food to eat.
Obviously.
But we have, a lot to share. And so the next year I got 3 animals, and so I gave that meat away. Next year I was able to get 4 animals, and so I started giving that meat away. So it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to the point where like one year we got 13 animals.
Wow.
With moose and caribou. And it was amazing how like our dependence on God was shining through in that situation, because people thought I was crazy. They're like, Martha, kind of a small person, we worry about your safety, you're going out in the middle of the woods. And at the time, my daughter, Ellie, was really small. She was about 4 years old. And so I was like, man, you're going out in the woods, it's scary. What if you break down? What if you don't get any meat? You have these people depending on you now, because it's been many years. People are so used to getting us, getting meat from us. And they're like, well, what happens if you don't get anything? And so I had a lot of negativity, the what ifs, and I had them going in my mind too. And I remember just like sitting in church, and they're talking about like, what it looks like to rely on God. And at that time I was fairly new Christian, and I was like, I don't really understand how that looks. I pray, and I ask God for guidance and stuff, but I didn't understand it. But once I got into being a designated hunter and having these people rely on me, I was like, oh my gosh, now like I kind of need God to be with me, like big time. This is really hard, and I don't know how I'm gonna accomplish this. And so turning it over to God is like a big deal with hunting. Like I just like, okay, God, like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna work really, really hard. Like nothing's ever been given to me, like ever. So I work really, really hard. But I have God right there with me, and like I felt at peace going into the woods knowing, okay, I'm just going to wake up in the dark, work real hard, be as nice as I can to people I come across, other hunters especially, which sometimes doesn't happen in the woods. Sometimes hunters aren't very nice to other hunters, and I was like, I don't want to go down that route. I want to be kind and build these friendships with other people that are doing the same thing as me.
Hunters are our own worst enemy.
Yes. So I was trying to like, God, please help me build those relationships. Please keep my heart open to how I can help them, and to get any guidance I receive to make sure that my heart's open to that. So having that there, and then just being okay with any outcome. I'm going to work hard, and I'm okay if I get 1 animal, 0 animals, 10 animals. I'm okay.
So you would basically pack Ellie up in a little backpack, strap her on, and off you would go.
Exactly. I had, car seats, and we had a little baby. I have her all padded when we go off-road when she was really little. And we would get to locations and yeah, I would put her on my back, and I actually have like really bad knees now from
No wonder.
carrying an extra child and packs and everything else, and then meat out too.
And you're homeschooling her too.
Exactly.
So you're teaching her about education, and she's getting a second education out in the wild.
Oh yeah, she is an amazing outdoors woman.
Now, I heard that she shot her first caribou at 6 years old.
So her birthday is right on the edge. It happens during hunting season. And so she goes into a hunting season at a certain age and she exits. And that was a little while ago. But I do remember it being around 6 or 7.
Wow.
And she was just so tiny. And the terminology that I used with her is totally different than what I'd use as an adult, you know, like how I described the crosshairs and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It just was such a cute experience. She was supposed to wait until the caribou got closer, like 100 yards. And all of a sudden, the caribou was like 300 yards and she shot at it. I'm like, whoa. And then it went down. I was like, oh my gosh, you're supposed to wait to make it easy. Like, oh my gosh, you just shot it and it went down. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't wait. I'm like, no, you're doing
Perfect.
way better than I could have ever imagined.
Sometimes the less you know, the better off you are.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward, now you're working with this ministry to feed your village.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get all these tags? What, do people just come in and say, Martha, here's my tag, here's another tag?
It's a really cool program.
Do they put in orders? I want some moose. Can I get some caribou?
I do actually I have orders, and I have everything, you know, organized. Some elders are very specific. They love the ribs.
Who don't love ribs?
And they're like, you call me when you're coming back into cell service, I will meet you at your house, and I'm gonna get those ribs, you know, and I put them aside. And some like love the heart, you know, and like, oh
Yeah.
man. So I do have special orders, and I try to do my best to help them get to what they really, really like. Because I think that is important, you know.
So let's say on an average year, how many animals do you dispatch for this village?
So we try to do about half a dozen to a dozen. That's what we shoot for. Some years a little less, some years more. But that's manageable for us. Just getting one animal down and out, it's a lot of work.
Well, it's not like you're hunting in a rural area like upstate New York or some parts of Indiana. You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I was doing some math, and the area that we hunt in is the size of Kansas.
Wow.
So if you can imagine Kansas and there's like nothing there,
Yep.
That's what we're dealing with. So just to get to a road system is challenging. And then on a road system, you still have to take a day to get to where we are and where the people are, where the meat can go.
Yep.
A lot of times we'll set up a base camp in the woods, and then we'll operate out of that. And then once we get the animal down, we have freezers with us and
Okay.
solar. That's how we operate our freezers. We brought some in like on a deuce and a half that I have, and that's what we did this last year, and it worked great. So we butcher them, and then we package them and freeze them, and then we take those to the trailhead, and then a volunteer will pick up that meat at the trailhead and take it back and either distribute it if there's an immediate need, or they'll put it in the freezers, and then we just keep doing that all year. So we'll head back into our base camp and just keep hunting, and then once we get enough, we'll do another shipment.
What about predators?
Oh my gosh, yes. Bears are everywhere.
Yeah. And they're not small bears.
No, they're very aggressive bears. They want a free meal.
Of course.
And we have a lot of free meals sitting in camp. So that's another reason why I like to process, get them in freezers and get them out. It's, you know, of course we don't have any, you know, heat issues or bugs or souring. But then we also don't have like a bait station going on in camp where the beach, you know, if we have 6 animals, 6 moose hanging in camp, that's a lot of smelling.
So what do you do when a brown bear or a grizzly come in? There's really not much you can do except shoot them.
Yeah, and at least she loves bear meat, and so she's.
Bear meat's good.
It is really good, and so she has no problem, like, you know, hunting for meat when it comes to bears. And I don't particularly like them if they're in our area threatening us,
Mhm.
and especially because we hear what's going on in our valleys, and sometimes I'll talk to hunters and they'll be a problem bear.
Yeah.
They're not scared of people. They'll just come straight into camp, destroy. They're not afraid of anything. So usually, we'll take care of those animals, and then we just bring the meat back out, just like we would do with Mr. Caribou. So.
What do you do with the skins?
So when I first started hunting, like my first animal, it was really special, and I wanted to keep that hide.
Mhm.
And I was trying to work with elders on how to tan it the traditional ways. I knew little bits and pieces, but I didn't know like the start to finish because it's not really done anymore.
Mhm.
And so I started doing all this research, and I wanted to find out every little piece. And it wasn't out there at the time where I couldn't find it. So I started experimenting, and getting a lot of animals helps with the experimental process.
It does. Trial and error is the best way to learn.
Yeah. And most hunters don't bring the hides out with them anyways. So I was not only getting the hides that we were harvesting, but also, random hides all over. Especially in a caribou herd, if there's a herd, multiple animals get dropped, they're nice and easy all in one spot, and the brains are right there usually too. It's not required to bring the antlers out on a caribou. Like moose, you have to prove that it's a certain size, make sure it's legal. Caribou's not the same way, and a lot of times they're smaller. So a hunter on a four-wheeler is not going to take the weight and space of the antler set if they aren't going to use it.
Sure.
So they're around in one area wherever the herd was. So it's easy to kind of take an axe, bop them, open them up, and take the brains out, and then take the hide out. And then once we get home, then we start tanning them. So we do traditional brain tanning, where we...
What do you mean brain tanning?
So we get the hide, and there's multiple ways to do it. There's a dry method where you scrape it.
Yeah.
When they're dry, like a raw hide, and you just scrape off the flesh, and you scrape off the hair and the epidermis, which is like the tough outer layer. And then you can take brains, put the brains on that, raw hides, and soften it to become like
it's kind of like salting it and using chemicals.
Yes, kind of like salting and chemicals, but we don't have any chemicals. We just have the brains, and that's it. So that's the dry method. The wet method is you lay the hide over a beam, and it's wet. And you have a metal bar, scraper, and most people can kind of visualize that if they think of like old trappers.
Yep.
We just scrape off the flesh side and scrape off the grain side. So from there, then we just take the brains, I put it in a blender, and so some boiling water, and it makes this really thick liquid, and I put it on the hide. And after it gets really absorbed, I kind of wring it out. Once the oils from the brains get into the hide, it's really flexible.
Okay.
And so then we soften it, which means we're just moving it while it's drying.
Yep.
And then once it's dry, you have a beautiful, soft material that you can use for clothing. It's breathable. You can use it for footwear.
And you make all this?
Oh, yeah. We make our own mittens and boots and hats. And
How is a beautiful woman like you still single?
I think it's because I spend a lot of time in the woods out by myself, doing our own thing. Maybe it's because I'm not in town at the bars hopping around or something. I'm not sure.
That's funny.
But we also do bark tanning, which is really fun. So like the leather here on your notepad, it's more of like a wallet or a belt. It's more heavy duty. So like the soles of a moccasin, if you wanted to use them long term, you would use that kind of tanning process where you use bark tanning, which is literally bark, like from plant materials. You have leaves and bark.
Wow.
You get the tannins out of them, and then you can tan it that way. And that's a process for hair on too, which is really fun.
Unbelievable. And you're still doing off-road racing or no?
Well, with COVID, everything got rocky in the world. So I was up until that point, and then all races stopped.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, wow, we're just going to be able to be in the woods all the time. Because I was kind of splitting up my life between woods and traveling the world racing. So it kind of went and died, really. I mean, nothing was going on during COVID. And every opportunity I see, I try to see as a blessing.
Mhm.
Wow, Ellie, we get to just be in the woods all the time, like the whole year. Like we really don't have to come back. And, it was really scary with COVID. We both have immune issues. And so, we don't really want to be around large groups of people. So when COVID was going on, really best place was in the woods for us.
Yeah.
So
Fresh air.
yeah.
No people around.
Yeah.
Animals can't carry it.
Yeah. So, and there's no cell service, there's no internet, there's no nothing. So really we kind of forgot that COVID was going on for most of the time. We'd come back and the first gas station or village we come to, we see masks and we're like, what's going on? Oh, that's right. There's this COVID thing going on.
So did you gain weight in that period? Because, you're out in the woods and you're getting all this great meat and you're at home cooking. I would be like 30 pounds heavier.
Luckily there's a lot of physical labor involved, and we did a lot more tanning than we normally do, and tanning is all physical labor. So actually it was the opposite. I felt really good. I was nice and thin, and we were able to grow more vegetables in our garden because we had more time, and
Sure.
we got to have more chickens, and so just more home life, farm life, that sort of thing, and then more being in the woods, and we're building. So we were able to build a truck for Ellie during that time too.
Wow.
We had amazing support from the automotive industry and from the outdoor industry to build her something that's fabulous. Her truck is way better than mine. It's really nice. After driving hers, I was like, man, I might have to build me one like this.
Why don't we
really
just
nice.
swap cars?
I know. For her first rig, she's very, very blessed to have that big. But we couldn't have done it again without the companies loving what we're doing and seeing the big picture. Yes, we like a truck, and yes, we want to go off-roading. That's fun. But if there's a bigger purpose than that, is we really want to help people. And companies stepped up and said,
So what kind of,
"We'll help you."
who do you have as sponsors that help you do what you do?
Man, I have so many. They are just, when I think about it, I start crying. So I'm going to try not to cry right now. But they have a passion for what we're doing, and they want to step up and be right next to us. And, we try to help them the best we can. We didn't ask for all this publicity, right? But we can use it to help them.
Sure.
Get the word out about how amazing the products are, and use them and actually let people know, hey, we're real people using this stuff. We're not actresses.
Yep.
We're real. And I can tell you different times where I use the products where it benefited us, and it can benefit you, and it can save lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Ellie's truck build, Keystone Automotive is this great big group, and they own many different companies underneath them. They have Trail Effects and Warren, Factor 55, Fab Tech, Fab Floors, this huge, great family in the industry. And they said, yeah, we love what you're doing, and we want to support you in any way. And during the pandemic, it was hard.
Yeah.
Because we're in Alaska, we had all those shipping problems. We have parts on the shelf problems. So we were like, oh, well, we're going to build this. And then oh, well, we don't have that part. We're going to have to do this. And so I was getting parts all the time, overnighted. And I was so just blessed to have that. But we're getting them and then having to modify them to make them work for what we have, because what we needed wasn't available at the time. And so there was constant change and constant adapting and overcoming, and the companies were right there oh, maybe we could make this work. How about we send you this? And they were very, very supportive. So.
But without your background,
Oh yeah.
you wouldn't be able to figure it out and put it together. And I guess when you have to, and you don't have any other choice, you figure it out.
Yeah, it is nice being able to be a welder and a fabricator, and be able to modify things. It seemed like nothing on that project really was off the shelf easy.
Yeah.
Because of the time constraint, we had to build it very quickly. Everything had to be shipped within a week or two, with whatever they could have on the shelf. I didn't have a lot of time. Oh, we got a year, so whatever, whenever something comes available.
A year goes by real quick.
I know, right? That would be nice to have that opportunity, but it wasn't. It was people come together, and we just could, did what we could with what we had available. But yeah, like you're saying, I would not have been able to do that without, all my training and welding and fabrication and building trucks and race cars. And because racing's the same way. You're out in the woods and you have a race car breakdown, or you need to build a part. You just have to use what you have to make it work. And the military, same way. We're out in the woods. So they all kind of overlap, and I'm able to use training from each of them to, go further in the other ones.
So you travel with just like a Leatherman, and you're like MacGyver. And okay, I got.
I do. Anybody that
I
sees
can
me.
squeeze the bark from this tree.
I do some crazy outside of the box thinking, and some people are like, "What? That's never going to work." I'm like, "Just give me a chance. Just give me a chance. It might work."
That's great. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. Where can we find you on social media and everywhere else?
So I think it's super original with social media. Just my name on Instagram, Martha Tansy. Facebook is Martha Tansy Off-Road Racing and Hunting. And we kind of got a new label to our ministry. It's called Spirit-Led Adventures. So that's going to be what we're transitioning into. That'll be our new kind of label to describe us and what we're doing within our ministry. And of course, on Mountain Men, last year was season 11.
Yeah.
And so we were on 9 episodes there. Year before that, we were on 6 episodes. So season 10 and 11, it was a really fun way to visually see all the stuff I've talked about in real life.
Wow.
So that's been a really neat opportunity, because I go around the world telling people what I do, and they're like, yeah, right.
I know. Get out of here.
So it's been fun to be like, no, really, like you can pull it up on your phone right now and watch exactly how I cut a moose up, or exactly how I build trucks, because we built the Ellie's truck.
Yeah.
So it's been really fun to have that opportunity to share that with people.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today.
Oh, thank you. It was fun.
All right.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do, from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstance, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the hardest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a non-profit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference.